What's the common theme that sex stops?
Communication. Communication and intimacy walk out the door together. It's the two things that they talk about. We don't talk anymore, we argue most.
Something really profound there, roommate to romance again.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people are in that situation?
A lot, yeah, absolutely.
How does that slide into that roommate scenario, do you think?
I did say that I was lonely. I did say to you, actually, we need to sit down and talk. You know, the mental load with the children and all the how. The husband saying I'm the provider, I don't feel like I'm getting anything else. All of this stuff is said but ignored.
What if consciously choosing to pause our sex life could be the very thing that saves our relationship? Today I'm talking with co-founder and sex therapist Lottie Passell-Syms to discuss when our sex life dies and what we can do to save it. So let's dive straight in. When couples here to take a break from sex, I should imagine they often panic, but you're seeing something powerful that happens in this pause. What's actually going on beneath the surface?
Okay, so the couples that I see are sometimes having sex, but they're not having the sex that they want, or they don't want to really have sex, or their lives are too busy and they are making excuses instead of reasons. So what I'm suggesting to them is maybe we need to take a pause, because what's happening when we live together is we have no tension that's built up to want to go towards. There's no compelling reason to hook up with each other at all. So what I'm doing is getting them to really think about what that pause would look like. Hear it first in the therapy room. So women usually smile slightly and men are going into the panic stage.
Why is that?
Well, because they don't feel like they're getting enough anyway. Some
What,
women,
men
men say that more than women do, but there are some women that would say, actually, I feel starved of affection. So yeah, I'm sort of putting this in place to give them an opportunity to go, right, okay, let's take sex off the table for a while. There's no expectations, there's no assumptions that this is going to happen, and find a place for sensuality instead of sexuality.
Ooh. What's the definition between the two?
Good question. I don't like the thought always to go to the ultimate goal, orgasm, ending. This is how we are. I like the sensuality, which is holding that breath work, holding that place for yourself. So maybe a lot of foreplay, just giving yourself touching parts of the body that are allowed to be touched, and holding the tension for a while.
It sounds like you're putting rules in place. The rules of engagement, of battle.
It's so powerful.
What are those rules?
I don't really want to call them rules. I want to.
All right, what's the guidelines?
Yeah. If we take sex off the table, then I want to invite my couples to actually look for sensuality. How can they convey to each other that they still care about each other without always thinking there's a rupture going to happen because there'd be a rejection? So if we take it off the table completely and we start to get them to think about sensuality, then we've got the opportunity to really build a different sort of sex life. So the roll on, roll off, don't stick together afterwards, as in oxytocin and vasopressin. Afterwards they have sex and they come away from each other, life's so busy. What I want is the sensuality to continue for a little bit longer. That eye gazing, that opportunity to say, you are with me and I'm with you and I really like being with you.
You've just reminded me of a Stephen Bartlett interview with the Gottmans.
Right, yeah.
And they talked about, and I hope I get this right, the 6 or 9 second kiss.
Yeah.
Is that a part of the same theory here, that connection?
Yeah, absolutely. The kiss to last longer than you automatically know that or want to do that. But also it comes with David Snartz as well, talking about hugging and re-hugging. Allow it to be surrendered to. Stay with it for longer than you normally would.
Hugging and re-hugging.
I love that so much. So
I don't want to hazard a guess that I know what that means, because already I've got a bit of an imposter syndrome going, don't assume anything here. Hugging and re-hugging, how do you describe
Well,
that?
he talks about hugging first of all, and then instead of pulling away like we normally would after a certain amount of time, because there's
like my son does, get off!
Yeah, like an uncomfortability all of a sudden. What we're doing is contracting, that we hug and then we re-hug. We breath and sink back into each other's arms, and the heartbeat starts to sync with each other. The breath becomes the same. So we're just surrendering to it for a little bit longer.
You've used that word a few times now, surrender. It feels like it's in a really important part of connection.
I think it is, yeah. I think we've got the reasons why we don't connect with each other, and then we've got excuses why we don't connect to each other. And I think a lot of it is because we're actually holding a stance for ourselves. Why don't we just go, let's surrender to each other, let's do whatever we need to do, or however that looks like. And that might be something really exotic and erotic, and then it might be something really simple like holding hands, eye gazing, hugging and re-hugging, kissing for longer, greeting somebody at the door when you don't usually.
I was just thinking then, what's kind of the stigma or the fear of surrender?
Yeah, of course, there's vulnerability. That's where sex takes us, for sure. Yeah, but that's okay. But I guess the word that's coming up for me while you're thinking about, I'm thinking about pleasure.
I was thinking about vulnerability.
So we've gone on two different tangents. Vulnerability is about the opportunity to allow yourself to give yourself, to surrender to yourself. So there is a vulnerability to that, but also we're seeking pleasure.
I know what came up for me. You did a live a little while ago. I think it must have been about a year ago. You asked a question what sex means to you. And it was a bit of an eye-opener because I went to, it's the glue that builds relationship. It's that connectivity. It's that really important gel for a relationship. And there was one guy on there that just thought anything to do with love or intimacy, he literally shuddered. He went, oh no, it's just got to be the sex act and that's it only. And it was a real eye-opener realising that we don't all think the same way. We certainly don't all feel the same way.
No, and that's why that's such a powerful question. And wherever I go, I ask that question, whether I do a seminar or the playbook, the comprehensive guide to working with couples. I always ask, even if they're therapists working with couples, and I ask couples, what does sex mean to you? It's such a provocative question because it means something different to everybody. And you have to really sit and think about it. What does it actually mean?
As soon as you pose the question, it then poses a path to learn more.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And as an individual, what's your pleasure, your solo pleasure, and what then would you like to share with somebody else?
I still cringe when you say that.
Solo. Why don't you like it?
It
individual
really is
pleasure.
individual
pleasure.
pleasure. Yeah, I don't know. For me, I was just thinking if I'm in a relationship, doing it for myself. If I was in a relationship, it feels ultimately almost like betrayal.
Oh, does it? Right. Okay. So self-pleasuring wouldn't be something that you would
single, not a problem.
Right.
With someone, then I got a problem.
Right. Okay. So we'd have to look at what sex means to you then, don't we? In an individual
not now.
process.
Maybe later.
We haven't got all night.
Yeah, that could be a rabbit hole, but I don't want to go down. I love how you're using that pause as a tool for deeper connection. Talk to us about what couples discover about themselves when there isn't their go-to form of intimacy.
Yeah, so I like this question because I believe that sex is our highest power. So when we're involved with someone or ourselves, it's the most time-consuming, provocative place that we can find ourselves. I just feel like that pleasure, that sexual place is the highest power that we exist in. And I feel like when that is paused for a while, we can use the other parts of ourselves to really connect to other things. So the deeper meaning of a relationship, who the person actually is.
Do you know what it made me think of then? When someone loses their hearing, their eyesight, they notice more, and vice versa. If you lose your eyesight, you become better at hearing. Is that kind of the same concept potentially?
I've worked with a lot of couples and individuals, and they say when that's taken off the table, they actually start to have a different aspect or concept about themselves. They're working maybe on themselves
or their relationship.
A bit of both, yeah. What are they working on? What are they working in? And for me, it's very much about, let's take that off the table for a minute and let's just see what other processes can happen within the relationship. So the pause of it gives them a deeper connection in a different way. More conversation, more opportunity.
Less boning.
Yeah, for a while. Yeah.
You're seeing couples develop new patterns during this pause. You mentioned, is it Masters and Johnson, 1961? What beautiful moments of connection are emerging when couples can't default to that physical intimacy?
Yeah, well, I'm an advocate of Masters and Johnson 1961. It's called Sensate Focus, and I absolutely adore it because it gives the opportunity for a different pathway. So, like I said before, sensuality instead of sexuality, and being able to come to a place of mutual understanding, mutual appreciation, and definitely mutual respect. So when people come to therapy with me, they're put on Masters and Johnson for 4 weeks, no sex, and only certain parts of their body are allowed to be touched.
Like what?
Probably hands and arms, and just across the top of the chest and then down the other side and back down to the other hand. So we're not massaging, we're looking for hot and cold, smooth or rough, hairy or not. We're actually exploring our partner's body as though they'd never seen it before. But nothing to do with genitals or anything to do with that erogenous part of our...
What, like rediscovering almost, but from a new perspective?
Yeah, it's fascinating to hear when they come back into therapy actually what it was like, and how the person who's doing the touching is the one that's actually, what pleasure are they getting? And the other person, from touching their partner, yeah. And the partner who's laying there is just there to enjoy that process. And you for the first 2 or 3 weeks, it's a bit awkward because they haven't really been having great sex or sex at all. And what you're doing is getting them to really think about, actually, there's another way of being. And the sensuality part of it is there is no sex. So they haven't got to worry about expectations or rejection or abandonment or thinking, right, okay, I've upset everything now. There's none of that going on. They can just have some really lovely sensual fun with each other.
Isn't that the definition of intimacy? The soaking in, the falling in, the surrendering, the exploration.
I think intimacy is hypnotic. I think it's when you lose yourself in somebody else's skin, and you give permission to do a certain amount of things with consent and open communication. And this is what I love about Sensate Focus. Everything is talked about before it happens, and then there's silence. They're not allowed to speak while it's happening. I think that's amazing. There's no criticism in the bedroom. There's no like, I don't like that, or you always do that, and I'm not so keen on that, or whatever it might be. If there's any interruption, because don't forget, you're not touching anything that's sexual. Okay, so but if there is a part of the body that you feel you don't want to be touched, you can negotiate that in the very beginning. Yeah, and if there's a part of you that's being sort of like the hand is stayed with too long, or the arm, and you just tap, do a little tap and go. It's like move on, just move on a little bit. You're not talking to each other, and that's what the essence of it for me is about: being able to no criticism, no sort of like yeah, I like it that there's no conversation in it. All the conversation's done before.
Rules of engagement, almost.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, and my couples, when they get into it, and if you put them on this at the right stage of their relationship, where they're really struggling with sex, having no sex or having sex that they're not really enjoying, putting them out this is absolutely ideal.
There's 2 questions here, and I'll try to do it succinct, part 1, part 2. One of them is, I want to give something away from today that, in the hope of anyone listening in the globe, that we might be able to capture something really important, something positive and profound, useful enough that they don't have to go to counselling. They could actually practice this at home. The second part of the question is the Sensate Focus. What is it? What is it a program? Is it a philosophy? What is it?
It's a program.
It's a program.
Yeah. So in 1961, when Masters and Johnson pulled this together, there was over 3,000 couples that went to see them, and they put them on this because they weren't having sex at all. So basically they said, right, you can't have sex now. So they weren't anyway, but you can't have sex now. Okay. And the invitation to be taken something away that actually they wish was happening, but they need to do this phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 first before they can go and get back into sex again. So we're building the tension, we're building the novelty, we're building the excitement, we're building all that up so that hopefully when the couples come back into having sex together, it won't be the same sort of sex. There'll be an element of foreplay, sensuality, pleasure, erotica, just a different way of being.
What's the common theme that couples find that sex stops?
Communication. Communication and intimacy walk out the door together.
Ooh.
It just does. The two things that they talk about. We don't talk anymore, we argue mostly. When we are going to have...
Why would you want to then after that?
Well, there's no warmth happening within the relationship. There's no respect. There's no reciprocity coming towards each other, leaning in. So the intimacy starts to go. And when the intimacy starts to go, that's when we start seeing the John Gottman stuff start coming in, which will be stonewalling, defensiveness, criticism, and definitely contempt when you're not having a sexual relationship in any way, shape or form. You feel abandoned. You feel lonely.
You can see how it plays out and how that then becomes a really easy trip hazard to try and find that connection with somebody else. And I should imagine if you're in a relationship, either partner, and you're not getting the intimacy, and then someone goes off and has that intimacy with somebody else, it doubles down on the pain and the hurt of that.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, but what we've got to remember is there will come a time, if they come to therapy or just talk to each other, I did say that I was lonely. I did say to you that actually we need to sit down and talk, or I did say to you actually, you know, the mental load with the children and all the house, or the husband saying I'm the provider, I don't feel like I'm getting anything else. All of this stuff is said but ignored. So when they come to therapy, they say, do you remember when we had that holiday and I was distant? Do you remember when I said, actually, I can't go on, and I've gone on for another 2 years? It's all said, but it's taken for granted that actually don't be silly, we'll be fine. Not going on about that again, are you? It's all sort of thrown away. And actually these things that we've got to listen to, there's somebody actually rupturing as we speak, going, I'm not okay, I need some connection. And we are, human beings are set up to connect. Sure.
We're meant to be in tribes too.
Yeah.
Little family units.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we are denied that and we keep asking for that and it's dismissed, then we can definitely go into some sort of child process, but also the adult part of us that can come back out of it, makes adult decisions for ourselves. We go into that differentiated part of ourselves. I'm an I first before I'm a we. So if I've got to make decisions for myself, no one's listening to me. Where does that take us?
Let's talk about resistance. There must be individuals that when they hear about taking that break, they're like, absolutely not. What's the most profound transformation you've witnessed in a couple setting who initially rejected this idea?
My most resistant couple just kept making excuses. I put them on Sensate Focus. They went home. They did it a couple of times. They come back and they write notes and things. They come back and it said it was a disaster. Didn't go right. There was lots of excuses. You get an invitation to the bedroom. The bedroom.
Did they blame you?
They did it one time, saying I'd put them on it too soon. And I, as a therapist, I always take accountability. And I thought, are they still in that resentment phase? Are they too angry with each other to be able to nicely touch each other? And I did wonder about that, but I just got this feeling that they really were in that place to be able to come back together. And we went on for a little bit longer, and then they come back after 4 weeks and they said, we've done it 8 times and we absolutely love it. And now we're going to include the first phase as a foreplay process to then going on to have sex.
So that sounds like they've changed their entire desire, all that rhymed, entire desire and their playbook to having sex.
Yeah.
They've reintroduced the intimacy at the beginning. Yeah. It's foreplay, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel like phase 1 is foreplay, but it gives them the opportunity to because don't forget, if you haven't had sex for a while, it's awkward. You're like 17 and you're like, it's just awkward to even kiss. It's awkward to just have a cuddle. It feels really like you're trying to navigate the arms and navigate the kiss, the lips. It's just like, how did we get here?
Left a bit, right
How
a bit.
did we get here that we can't even kiss properly now? It feels like we're really awkward. That roommate process takes us to a place of this is really awkward. And what we're trying to do in Sensate Focus is get rid of that awkwardness, because we're not asking them to do anything that they actually don't want to do. Everything's consented to, everything's talked about before. The brief that I give them to be able to know what to do when they get back home is so clear that there is no ambiguity with it at all. They know exactly what they need to do.
And you just touched on something really profound there, roommate to romance again.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, how many people are in that situation that you see as couples coming into
Yeah,
therapy.
A lot. Yeah, absolutely.
How does that slide into that roommate scenario, do you think?
Don't talk enough. The communication, the intimacy goes, and then the resentment slides in and goes, yeah, who are we to each other? Who have we become? It's really sad. It's that song, isn't it? I say about this song all the time, but I've never heard this song. It's that strangers to friends, to lovers, to strangers again. And it's the most bizarre thing that you can sleep with someone and then you end up not knowing them at all. And you've been so intimate with them. And then you're like, who are we to each other?
You've got two different things going on there. I guess one of them is there is general growth. So you can grow apart, which is a fact of life, whether it's appreciated or not. And then the limerence that we've talked about in other episodes, we can get swept along with a feeling without really being conscious and aware of the facts.
Well, the limerence only is when you first meet somebody, and that's supposed to fade, and then you go into the power struggle to decide on keeping that person or being with that person.
What does it mean for someone that might feel that limerence for a very long time?
It can last up to 18 months, but I get concerned about people that are completely in that limerence still, because they can find that they feel that they need this person. It's not because they just want them, they need them.
So there's an identity, there's a love language, there's childhood, there's all kind of things rolled into one there.
It can go a little bit deeper than that. It can be somebody that won't let go. There's a possessive and obsession part of it, codependency part of it, victim part of it. So that part we need to be mindful of that did sort of like disappears, and then we go, I'm choosing this person to be the one I want to see if I can make a relationship with. So it's not love, it's limerence that starts off and then the love kicks in later on. But we are in the power struggle some of the time within a relationship. People come to therapy because they can't get out of the power struggle, and that's including sex and intimacy. They just can't seem to get it together again.
Define the power struggle.
The power struggle is lifelong. So we go into the power struggle when something's happening to us. So we meet someone, they are our soulmate. We think, we can talk till God knows what time in the morning. I can't believe that this person knows me so well. And then we differentiate slightly. So we step back from each other to find that place for ourselves again, which is seeing mum and dad, seeing our friends again, going to football, going to whatever it might be.
Doing our own thing.
Absolutely. So the differentiated us is always there, and we need to come back to it to then go back to the relationship again and go, and I'm me wanting to be with you instead of me thinking I've got to be with you.
So investing in our relationship so we have that kind of abundance of self-worth, self-respect, self-esteem, and not needing anyone, that seems like what's the word that's coming up for me? Accountability.
Yeah. So the limerence is something that's fading or fades, and the power struggle comes back into our life again and again, because we will have things like getting married, having a baby, buying a house, having a mortgage, getting into debt, parental process where you've got to look after your parents because they've got older. We go back into the power struggle, but the whole point of the power struggle is we're supposed to come back out of it for a certain amount of time and have what we call the real deal. Everything's going well, everything's going fine. We go on for quite a long time. Then we go into the power struggle again because things will worry us. But we're not supposed to stay in the power struggle. And that's why people come to therapy, because they can't get out of it. They say, right, today's today, we're going to have this conversation and we're going to sort ourselves out. And they have the conversation, they start round and they go back into the power struggle, exactly where they were before. They can't seem to get out of it. And that's why I don't advocate long-term therapy for couples, because we're trying to get them out of the power struggle. We're giving them the tools to go forward. And then I do a booster session to make sure that the tools are going on. And then they go off and fly off and have a lovely time together.
But they are entirely responsible for their part to play. You're a therapist that instigates a program and a plan and a process, but it is entirely up to them.
I'm the facilitator, and
that's that big word I was looking for.
And they are the people that are doing the work. So I can facilitate, I can give them things to do. And I go on about reasons and excuses. So they come back and say the reason why I didn't do it is, and it's a valid reason. Absolutely fine with that. If it's an excuse, I didn't do it because it is an excuse. I go, well, that's an excuse. Why have you not done it? I'm looking at the viability of this relationship. I'm looking at, are you invested in it? Do you want it to work? Why are you not doing the homework? There'll be a cheerleader on one side and ambivalence on the other.
I love that. I've heard this a few times now, and it's starting to resonate with me a little bit. So within a relationship, you'll have a cheerleader and then someone who is
slightly ambivalent. And we've got one person going, let's go, let's have a picnic, let's go on a bike ride, let's do this. And the other
I'm ashamed when I hear this because I am a cheerleader.
Right.
Yeah. I'm there on the sidelines with my partner saying, we've fucking got this. We can do this.
Yeah.
And nothing will stop us if we're in. Doesn't work if there's any one of you doing it.
It doesn't, no. The energy that's used, the disappointment that's felt, the what am I doing as an I? That's where it takes you. What am I doing? You're trying to be a we, but actually the differentiated part of you will go to, I'm not getting anything that I want from this relationship. I'm trying to push this energy towards this other person. And we're not talking about personalities here. We're talking about behaviours of another person. What is their part to play? I always do talk about the Simpsons who come to the settee all at the same time. Nobody's saying, we've got to meet here. They know they've got to be there at 7:00. No one's accountable for somebody else. Same as when I do the homework with my clients. I don't say, don't call your partner down. Sit at the table when you're doing the 7.5 minutes each and wait. Because they've got to be accountable. You're not going to be mother or father and go, don't forget, we're going to do this later on. You're not that person to them. They're an adult. Just sit at the table and wait. And if they don't turn up and your 7.5 minutes goes, get up and make yourself a cup of tea and go, we need to share with Lottie. We missed that call. Where is the cheerleaders? Where is the ambivalent? Why didn't you remember? How important, how significant are you to this relationship?
That there is a bit of an outline of the lodger to lovers. It's a choice, isn't it? Are you going to come out of lodgers and become lovers again? If so, there is a genuine process that we've got to embark on here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And we've got to have two people who go, yes, we'll, they've got to agree to do sensate focus. They've got to agree to come back together in that way. It's no good one person, again, being the cheerleader, the other person, I'll give it a go. There's no passion there, is there? There's no...
Well, it's not believable.
No.
It's not heartfelt, is it?
No.
And I think I should imagine you have couples that when they're both saying, yes, we want this, but there's an undertone or an air about one of them that goes, yeah, no, we'll give it a go.
And that's why I say to my clients, please reject carefully. Every time you say no to something, then why don't you give a solution? I'm not going to have sex with you tonight, but would you like us to do this? Or could we just cuddle naked? Or could we interact in a different way? But if it's a sharp no, and it's a no, no, no again and again, and this is not gender-based, it can be either or, it's so rejecting.
You nearly said degrading.
I did.
And I wanted to tease that out of you because I've had experiences of my own where over the course of time, it's not just demoralising. It's not just, oh, that was a bit upsetting, or I could really have done with not the sex act, but the intimacy.
Yeah.
I really needed us. I needed an us tonight.
Yeah. I think the degrading for me is where the shame sits. Be asking for something that's just not available to you. It takes people to a place of shame.
You hit the nail on the head. It's that next level shame.
It is, yeah. I'm asking for something that I think's okay to ask for, but I'm being told it's not okay to ask for, and I don't get it. I'm confused. I don't know why I can't have this from the person that's supposed to be in love with me. And
what if someone is being accused of being a sex pest?
Yeah, not in my therapy room. I don't allow that talk in there. If you're hungry and you aren't fed in some way, shape or form, whether that's just the kiss or the greeting at home, you are going to start making a bid for connection. And usually it's not in the right way. It would be the touch of a breast or touch of the arse or whatever it might be. And both sexes don't like that when there's nothing else going on. It feels like the wrong bid for connection. So I don't like the word sex pest in any way, shape or form. I think we need to have grown-up conversations about what is the deficit within this relationship, what is stopping this coming back online.
But you're talking about the compassion for the other person, realising that I don't want sex, but this person, the person that I love and the person that loves me is in a deficit.
Yeah.
needs something, and if I care for them, how can we negotiate a conversation around this so it's dealt with better, it's more palatable?
Yeah, but we need radical honesty, don't we? There must be a reason why sex has been taken off the table. Now, that could be a multitude of stuff, can't it? It can be children, childbirth, operations, weight gain, apathy, libido, pet overload, mental load, taken for granted, no warmth, disrespected, no reciprocity. Yeah. Insecurity, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we've got to find out as therapists what the reason is. And the radical honesty has to come from the couple. What is it that's taking you away from this relationship?
How do you facilitate that radical honesty in therapy?
Well, I think you know me well enough, don't you?
I
really?
do, but the listeners don't.
I talk about low-level trust and high-level trust. If you have low-level trust within the relationship, you don't have a very good communication platform with each other. So low-level trust would be a place of, it's a bit clunky, I can't really say what I want to say, the responses aren't what I want to hear, I don't feel safe, I'm walking on eggshells. If you've got high-level trust, the flow of the conversation is very, very different. It feels like you can say anything you want. Even if you make a mistake. Am I safe
to be honest?
Yeah. Even if you say something wrong in high-level trust, it doesn't make any difference because the other person is curious about what you meant. If it's low-level trust, they will go to defensive or stonewall.
There was a podcast I watched about a year or so ago. A 19-year-old lady married a boyfriend, husband, much to her friend's dismay. And she was saying about how important that high-level trust is and being able to say anything. Well, her husband can say anything he wants, and it's her responsibility to make sure that she deals with it in an appropriate way. So she's got to build that safety. I think she described it as, if I punish the truth, I'm asking to be lied to.
Love that.
I don't want to be walking on eggshells. I want to be able to be open.
But when you talk about punishment, they're not talking about the relationship they're in. They're talking about their family of origin. They're talking about the things in the past are playing out in their current relationship. And that's the eggshell moment. There's a response going on that you've heard before when you were little. And you can't say it to this person who you want to say it to, because actually the script from the past is playing out now.
It's interesting. We're going down two different paths.
We are, aren't we? We're going
No, it's not. No. So the talk track that I was thinking of then is our relationship. You and I have been friends, 15 years? Yeah. And when I think about that authenticity in, so you were talking about the dynamic of family origin and feeling safety and trust in a relationship.
Yeah.
You and I have the most profound boundaried relationship that I wish and I would hope, and we've got a podcast that we did about this, Can You Be Friends with Ex-Lovers?
Yeah.
And I think this stands nicely in this part of the conversation where I'm thinking, if we can be honest with our partners, we're comfortable in that, and we're not punished, then everyone benefits.
Yeah, yeah. Again, it's because we've got high-level trust.
High-level trust and low-level trust.
Yeah, yeah. I talk about it to my clients to be able to promote better communication with them.
So everyone listening right now, perhaps feeling that disconnect in their relationship, what's the first small step that they can take now to start rebuilding a deeper intimacy? And we said this earlier about how do we kind of circumvent even going to therapy?
Yeah. One of my favourite, I call it play work now instead of homework, is I do the 15 minutes, 7.5 minutes each, and they sit down together and they just talk about an emotion or emotions that they've had in the week. So I say to them, Friday at 7 p.m, sit down together and you say, on Monday and Tuesday, I had a really good day. I felt happy. Wednesday and Thursday, I felt a bit lonely. And that lasted all day and the next day. And then Friday, I'm here now and I feel quite happy. Thank you very much for sharing with me. I really appreciate you doing that. And the other person, 7.5 minutes. Even if they don't use all their 7.5 minutes, they still have to sit with each other.
In silence, effectively.
In silence, yeah. Maybe holding hands, sitting close to each other. They just talk about their emotion. And the other person is not rescuing them with the emotion. Like when the person said, Tuesday and Wednesday I felt a bit lonely. There's not a discussion about that. It's not like, why did you feel lonely? Was it the text I sent you? Because you're already taking it off of them and going to I. Is it me? What we're doing is leaving them with their emotions. Then the other person does the same, going, Monday and Tuesday was this, and Thursday and Friday was that. And what you're doing is thanking each other for sharing the emotions, but you actually don't do anything with them. And that's called intimacy.
Love it.
Not going to rescue. We're not going to say, what did that mean for you? And then we say, make a cup of tea. And then probably about 20 minutes later, what do you need from me right now?
I think that's our joint favourite saying, isn't it? What do you need from me?
I love it. What do you need from me? And it's either space or another cup of tea. Hug. Let's hold hands for a little bit longer. But that 3.5 minutes usually takes to do the emotion thing. And then they go, what do we do now? I go, just sit there. Because when was the last time did eye contact? When was the last time you looked at each other? I even point that out in my therapy session when they actually look at each other. And it's usually a question. I say to them, when was the last time that you were intimate with or had sex with each other? And they always turn around and look at each other for clarification. Was it 8 months ago? And they're looking at each other like this. And I point it and I go, that looks like the first time you've actually looked at each other and was clarifying when you had sex. And they laugh and they go, yeah, just realised we've just looked at each other to try and clarify that question. They haven't looked at each other for ages, months.
Sounds magical.
It is. I just think it is incredible.
There's quite a bit to unpack on that.
Yeah, there's lots there. Yeah. Well, there is a lot in a relationship that goes on. And I hope some of these questions help couples to think about where they are. Do the pause, have a conversation. What would it be like to take sex off the table for a while? And you might feel resentful and think to yourself, why should I? I'm not having any anyway. But you're not having a conversation about sex in the first place. What does it mean to you?
It sounds like it gives people an opportunity to convert from lodgers to lovers again.
I think so, yeah. Love that.